Okay, she makes some dumb TikTok. I wanted this man to be vulnerable with me for so long. He finally called me yesterday and opened up, but the second he started crying, I lost all interest in him quickly. This is a safe space, but not that safe. So like,
what?
Yeah, like you guys claim you want the guy to be vulnerable,
Yeah, I know.
But, okay,
like,
but that's,
where's the line? We don't know until we cross.
Here's something wrong with that bitch.
It's her. It's not us. This is what I'm saying about generalizing.
But we don't know what kind of girl you are until we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
We don't know what kind of girl you are until we're actually in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so either we're going to fumble the girl, and you might say, well, if she was not cool, like, fine, it was good to lose her. But like, there's all kinds of actions that you can take in a relationship to protect the relationship if you want to keep it going. For most men, I think we would happily make the trade-off of, yeah, I'd rather just not be like a crying little bitch in front of my girlfriend and I keep her. Like, I think most men are happy to make that trade-off.
So for example, I know that like I like sensitive men, or like, what was the word again? Vulnerable. There we go. Those men, because for example, like I just got a call from one of my guy friends over the phone, and he was basically crying because he just got in a fist fight with one of his best friends, and I was literally babysitting. I was literally working.
Did he lose?
No, he was just sad because he fought them. That was really sad. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I was there to support, like, be there for him, and didn't make me feel some kind of way. Oh, like this man's a pussy. Like nothing like that. At all.
That's fair. I think maybe I can come at this from a different angle. So, from your perspective, let's say you had a man and he was doing everything correctly. Okay, he was very charitable. He was very humble. But at the same time, right, he was very dominant. He was handling all of his business. He was financially set. He had all of like the qualia that you wanted. What would be the investment there of demanding to note what makes him tick? Why is that even necessary to know that? Why is that the dive-in of open up so I can figure out what makes you tick? Why is that so important to even know? If they're meeting all of the challenges and checking all the boxes, why is it necessary for you to know what makes them tick?
Because it's part of a partnership. Men are always so... Okay, let me tell you this. Men are always so...
I'm not asking you. Hang on.
Let me answer. Why do you always have to say something?
Yeah, you can answer, but can
okay,
the
so men are always...
to answer?
Men are always concerned about, body count, which is in the past. So why can't women be concerned about their life, the way they grew up? It's good to know about childhood. It's good to know about the way you were raised.
Okay, I get it. But the thing is, he's already doing all the right things. He's already checking all the boxes.
Okay, here, hold on.
Hang on. The only thing I can assume is that the reason you're demanding that he open up to you and be vulnerable, even though he's doing everything else right, is because you want information.
Yeah.
And you want it. I don't know why you want it, right? And he doesn't know why you want it, but why do you even need to know it? Why is it even pertinent for the relationship that you know this information, Banks? Tell me. Why is it even pertinent? Why is it even necessary?
Okay, one response. You go, then we're moving on. Go ahead.
I think it just all leads back to the fact that you think women are evil, because it's all of a sudden it's about Yes, I'm answering it to you. It's all about, women want information so they can attack you later on and use it against you. No. It's about partnership. It's about understanding.
Yeah. Let me ask the question again. Maybe this time you'll answer it. The question is, if he's checking all the boxes and doing all the things you already want, why is it actually so important to you that you need to know what makes him tick?
Because I want to know about his childhood. I want to know how he grew up. I want to know what happened. I want to know everything.
You want to use weapons. That's why, Banks, because you want weapons.
Go ahead.
You idiot.
I agree with what she said. I think there is no such thing as a perfect relationship, whether that's with your significant other or with your friend. Therefore, fights will occur in your marriage or in your relationship. There's no such thing as a no fighting relationship. And in order to have understanding and make that healthy, you need to understand who they are as a person, where they grew up, how they were raised. That's how you will maintain a healthy relationship.
That's what made them them.
Let us assume
and that's not just with men, it's with friends too. I would want to know, like, my girlfriends, how they grew up, where they were born, their culture.
A quick response. I need a very quick response. Go ahead.
Very quick. Well, all I'm going to say is that it wouldn't really matter ultimately if he's already checking all the boxes, already doing the right thing.
No, it does matter because
hang on, let me respond. Okay, if he's doing all those things and you fight every once in a while, you've already admitted that that's healthy and normal inside of relationships. The only reason I can ascertain that you would need to know what makes him tick is because you want weapons.
But also,
sorry, I gotta let him go. Go ahead.
All right, real quick. It was a lot being said. I totally understand what Andrew was saying because we've seen a lot of examples of women using that information to hurt men. That is a reality, and you have to be cautious. You have to move wisely. Like last time I was up here, the guy was being vulnerable, taking all the women on all these dates, and we were saying how he need to be a little more, have his wits about him. I understand what the women say. I think where men get it twisted up is we think being vulnerable is about showing softness. I think in my experiences, I don't know everything, but there has been women that have used that against you. They do exist. But I think when women say that, they're not necessarily talking about just sitting on the corner crying all the time. It's about when you're not afraid to show how you feel, there's a certain bravery in that. It's not about her seeing you sensitive. It's you not caring what anybody thinks about you in that moment. So if you're emotional, you let it out. If you're upset, you let it out. I think women are more drawn to the fact that you don't care. It's not necessarily about you being a in front of them. It's you so confident in yourself as a man that I don't care who here. I'll cry because I'm mad as hell, not because I'm a it's because this is how I feel and I'm gonna let it out and I don't care who thinks. I think a lot of women are drawn to that aspect of it, not necessarily because, oh, you're soft, because like for example, I had one of my exes, I was vulnerable to her about things I went through with my daughter's mother. So women can use it against you to hurt you or help, just like a man. He could say, okay, you went through a lot of things, I could throw that in your face. Or I can do something to help you with what you went through. Like my ex, for example, based on what I went through with my daughter's mother, she made me a collage of moments of me and my daughter and like little quotes, like, hey, no matter who sleeps on you, you're still a good person. Like she used that weakness that I gave her, that vulnerability, and gave me something to give me confidence in that area. So I think the problem on both sides in today's conversations is we use too much extremism. Like I said last week, when you're dealing with relationships, there takes a certain level of vulnerability on both sides, and information can be used to hurt you, but can also be used to help you. It's about the type of person you're dating. But I understand what Andrew's saying, but I understand what the women's saying too.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're gonna go. You need to be better disciplined though with the insults, okay? Andrew is very gracious.
He
didn't
called me fat.
Earlier in the conversation, you just called him an idiot. You need to lower both of you, but mostly you, lower the temperature.
Okay, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
You go, and then Andrew, final word, and then we're gonna move on. Go ahead.
In relationships, when you also show that vulnerable side, like he was saying, it could also better the relationship. Like if I was dating someone and they said, I don't like when you do this because it makes me feel like the relationship isn't stronger, it just makes me feel bad, that showing your vulnerability can better the relationship. So it's better to show vulnerability.
Okay.
Yeah, just like adding on to what she said, like my dad was a very crazy guy growing up. He was very authoritative, I don't know, but when he started opening up to me as I got older on his childhood and how he grew up and, you know, all this stuff, it gave me better understanding and I had less anger towards him. Back then I had anger towards him before I knew that stuff, and then once I had clarity on how he grew up and all his traumas, I was able to have compassion towards him, and I was like, okay, my dad isn't evil, you know. No one grows up and says, oh, I want to be evil, I want to be a bad parent, I want to do this. It's just the circumstances that lead to that. And that was something that took me a really long time to learn, because it took years until my dad finally was able to open up with me about that. So yes, I do think it is very important to be vulnerable.
Andrew, go ahead. You have final word.
Very quickly. So I think that you can have very deep emotional connections with people, regardless of if they open up to you as a traumatic dumping ground one way or the other. Notice that it's women who are always requesting this, not men. And notice that there's a distinction in the power dynamic that should give you a really good reason as to why this is so often requested, even though for men, it's not something that they even want to do. It's not a thing that we even do with each other. We do not trauma dump on each other. We don't do that. Ultimately, I would just kind of tie it off this way and say, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. That's the oldest piece of advice and wisdom on planet Earth. Watch what people do. And so if you watch what women do is they say at the same time they want very stoic men who are very much under emotional guard and emotional control, that they want them to emotionally open up to them, and then we see what they do with that information. What they do with that information during divorces, they weaponize it. What they do with that information during a breakup is they weaponize it. All the information that you gave them, all that emotion, all those, and they can twist it so badly too. You can say, for instance, when I was 18, I took drugs for 6 months. You could say that, and they could say, well, this guy was a habitual drug user. He can't be trusted. Very, very minute things like this can be twisted, warped, used against you. There's actually no good reason for you to give this information and these fears up. You don't actually need to do that. It's not good or healthy, and it is not going to negate a strong emotional connection. It's not going to do that. So that's what I would say.
Well, real quick though, Andrew, I got to keep it a buck. Like, when I said that last time you was here, you didn't agree. We were talking about the dude and how he was being green with the woman. I said, you got to pay attention to what the women do. And you was like, well, we're blaming the woman by saying that, but you saying the same thing right now.
No, it's the opposite. I thought you were too hard on the kid, not the woman.
No, I know.
I thought the woman needed to be harder. You need to be harder on her.
But you just said out your own mouth that you got to look at what a woman does and not what she says. That's the argument I used last time I was on the show, because he was going by what the woman was saying outside of her actions. Yeah. He was looking at the actions of her actions was not saying I want to be with you. It was saying I just want to show up and eat with you. And that's what I said to them. But this week you're saying that. But just to make a long story short,
that kid was naive. There's no doubt he was naive. Neither one of us disagreed on that.
A lot of people are naive, but
the thing is, you need to have mentors as men so that they can show you.
Absolutely.
And I'm not one of them, but there are men out there who mentor younger men.
Absolutely. And real quick, I'm just say this. Everybody's different, because what you said, I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, based on how I grew up, a lot of my friends, we had to be lean on each other. I talked to my man called me the other day. I got a lot of friends that call me like, yo, bro, I'm tired of these kids, man. I'm like, I don't know, my wife is stressing me out, so sometimes I just feel like giving up. Dudes speak to each other like that, and I think
that's not trauma dumping, bro. Your friends aren't calling you up and telling you.
That's exactly what it is. You're telling, bro, my man.
That's complaining. That's the difference.
That's semantics. That's semantics. Whenever someone's calling you about, that's your opinion. I'm not gonna try to change your mind. But whenever someone calls you in a vulnerable state about what they're going through, insecurity about themselves, I don't know if I can make it, I don't know if I got the money, I don't know if my wife, those are vulnerable moments that men share amongst each other as well. So like I said last time, we can't speak from just our point of view, because everybody's not like us, and how you grow up and how you behave determines how you deal with emotional situations. Maybe the way you grew up, you had a strong mother, you had a strong father, y'all had a certain regiment where emotions wasn't required for you to cope. But certain people don't grow up with those structural environments in their family, so they have to become vulnerable just to create relationships in their own life, because they don't have that type of family. So when we try to paint everything with a broad brush, I don't think no one gains from that. I think it just becomes
I would just say that having male friends who you have a lot of history with, and you guys have a deep trust factor. And you also understand the force dynamic there as well. There's a force dynamic even between friends. If he goes out and slanders you, things like that, what happens? He gets beat up. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about interpersonal dynamics with men, and even the way that men complain to each other, totally different than the idea of trying to dive into the deepest, darkest recesses of your brain so that you can trauma dump. And that's what's actually being requested with emotional vulnerability, is that you give up, in a sense, a lot of your sovereignty by doing that. And I don't really see what the gain here is. If you're saying, my best friend who I grew up with calls me and he talks to me about interpersonal things, you still have a force dynamic in play there. You can still do something, and he could do something back to you if you were to weaponize that. You don't have that with women, dude. That is not there.
But I think what you think,
you just have to be better at it than they do.
But I think what you're explaining as emotional vulnerability is not what everybody's talking about. I think like I said, in my opinion, what it is, it's not necessarily just telling your girl everything. It's the fact that you don't care about how you're viewed in that moment because you're so secure within yourself. It's not about impressing her or making her look at you a different way. It's about saying, I don't care what you think as my woman. So in other words, if I'm talking to a woman,
why do you care if she wants you to be emotionally vulnerable?
It ain't, because it's not about her. It's about me. I don't care who. I'm just talking about me personally. Okay. No matter who I'm around, if I feel a way about something, I'm going to let it out because I'm confident enough in myself to. If someone wants to judge me because I'm letting a vulnerable moment happen, that doesn't take away from me. And I think when men go into a situation, or women go into a situation saying, well, I don't want to show my true self because this person can take something away from me, that shows insecurity within themselves, in my opinion.
Well, I think the opposite. I think that emotional control is part of getting rid of the passions, and that men are completely inundated, way more than they ever should be in modernity, with the passions. And you're a Christian. Under Christian ethics, you know the heart's a liar. And because the heart's a liar, you have to make the heart work for you, not be enslaved by the heart. And so the thing is, like, no, I don't think it's a good idea to give in to the passions. I don't think it's a good idea to be overly emotional with either men or women. I do think it's nice to have confidants who are very close friends, but I think even then, you should be somewhat guarded. And ultimately, that's how men survive with each other. We have to survive that way with each other.
I agree with that.
You can't tell your friend. Like here, let me give you an example, right? Let's say you have a close friend of yours, or like that you grew up with, or something like that. Let's say the night before you had a dream that a dude did stuff with you. Are you going to tell him about that shit? No, you're not going to tell him about that.
That's a crazy example, though. That's an extreme example.
You'd be like, wait a second, I'm not going to tell. Why? Because you wouldn't want information like that to get out, right?
That's an extreme example. I don't dream like that, but
but it's an extreme example to demonstrate to you why it is that in many cases you're still not going to reveal potentially embarrassing information, even to a person you really trust, and there's a lot of sense to that.
Because you keep, I'm gonna shut up. You keep talking about the worst possible situation. But go ahead. All right, go ahead.
We got to move it on. We're gonna let a couple